Got actual callers online. Is it Cody?
Yeah, Cody.
How you doing?
Oh, pretty good, pretty good. I actually had a question in what you believe in as far as metaphysics, and I'll put it in context with my own self, an occurrence that happened to me, and I just want to ask you what you guys think about it, as far as us having the energy and the capacity of being connected, even though being far away, as far as i.e. remote viewing and premonitions and so on and so forth. But me and my brother were probably the closest two people in each of our lives, and it's been that way all the way growing up. And
sure. He
was away in Kansas for college on a wrestling scholarship, and I had a dream one night, and I was in the passenger side of a small single cab pickup truck, and we ran into a larger truck, and the cab around me just kind of crumpled in, and everything went black, everything went dark, and it was silence. There was nothing, and it was like I didn't exist anymore. But I had a very, very calm reassurance that it wasn't me, it's somebody else. And so when I woke up, I was literally sweating and felt like there was something very, very wrong. And so the first person the first person that I felt like this had to deal with was my brother. And it was very, very early in the morning. I call him, and he was like, "Oh, what's going on, man?" He just woke up. I woke him up, and I said, "Dude, what happened, man? What not? Did anything happen?" It's like I knew something had happened, and I asked him, "Dude, what happened, man? Something happened." And he told me exactly what happened. And a friend of his that was on the wrestling team, that same exact thing happened. The guy was in the passenger side of a small pickup truck, ran into a larger truck, and and he died. And there are other things that have happened like that with people that I'm close to, and I'll kind of spook them a little bit, but I feel that we only use less than 8% of our brains on.
Actually, that's not remotely true.
No,
we use all of our brain.
I think that there are some people, it's just like a muscle, you can exercise it, and there are some people that I think that have gifts are able to, do certain things that I think that science is actually starting to press upon in its research. Even the FBI. And
here's the thing. First of all, the myth of 8% of the brain or 10% of the brain is just that it's a myth. You use all of your brain. What you use it for, and how efficient it is at it. Okay, that's subject to investigation, but you use all your brain.
Right.
So the 8% thing kind of ends up getting misquoted. As to the metaphysical connection, I don't happen to believe that any such thing exists.
Right.
And if
what if a certain thing like that happened to you? How would you take it?
Yeah. Here's the thing. We don't have a complete understanding of how the brain works. But here's what we know. People don't always remember their dreams. And not all of your dreams come true.
Sure.
So while it's possible that you may have had a prophetic dream or some kind of remote experience, it's possible in the theoretical sense, there's no reason to leap to the conclusion that that's actually what happened. Because we tend to remember the hisses. The hisses? We tend to remember the hits and forget the misses. It's like saying, I was thinking about so-and-so and they called on the phone. Well,
right.
How about all the other times you were thinking about them and they didn't call? So what needs to happen in order to make this, I'm not saying that this couldn't possibly happen. There's no mechanism that we know of that could possibly account for this.
Right.
And there's no one who's been able to reliably demonstrate any phenomena like this at all. I mean, James Randi's had $1 million award for years to anybody who could demonstrate under scientifically testable conditions that they have any kind of ability like that.
Actually, have you seen that Mythbusters episode where they tested ESP on a plant? They hooked it up with a bunch of electrodes and
I've seen every
Mythbusters
episode. Yeah.
Have you seen that one?
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah. What do you think about it? I thought that was pretty cool, kind of.
I've seen them all, and you've seen most of them.
Yeah, pretty much all of them. So.
But it's not so much that
I just think that the occurrence that I would want to call my brother and actually. That's the first time that anything like that ever happened to me. You know? It's like, why would I want to call him out of everybody? It's like I felt very scared for him because he was at the same party where this happened. There was a lot of alcohol. so I was kind of actually like in fear of his first life when I called it. That could have been him in the passenger seat.
Right.
Out of everybody that I knew, like, why would I want to call him, or why did I have a fear that something had happened? And I didn't ask him, did anything happen? I said, what happened, dude? Something happened.
I got you. There are lots and lots of stories like this. There are so many things that people just,
that are coincidence, right?
Well,
what are the odds of that?
it's not.
You're a
It's not
you
just
have a mathematician-like way of thinking.
It's not just coincidence that I'm talking about. Coincidences do occur. The thing that most people tend to overlook is that, number one, we're all very similar. And we have similar experiences, similar fears, similar thoughts. It's not surprising at all to me that someone would have a dream about somebody they care about where something bad happened, and they call and they find out that something bad happened. Only thing is that you didn't dream about your brother, you dreamed about some other guy. You could have dreamed about your brother, and your brother could have been in the accident, and it still would have been no more evidence of a true phenomena. What we need is...
What would you put a number on that? What do you think the odds of something like that happening? Like 1 in a million?
I'd say the probability of that happening is 1, as in 100%.
Sure, because it happened, and I understand that.
And not just because it happened, but because over the course of your lifetime, you have a whole bunch of dreams and thoughts and feelings and concerns, and you think about the people that you're caring about. At some point, especially, one of the things that happens is with this thing about calling somebody and they picked up the phone and they were calling you and you guys seem to have magically been connected. That's happened twice with me and my mom. But when I look back on it and think about it, there's
the chances of that occurring are just very, very widely marginalized, and
Well, but at the same time, the thing is that people overlooked is that there's a certain amount of time that goes by where if you haven't talked to your mother or your brother or some other family member, they end up being on your mind more predominantly. There's been this gap. So the phone call thing is incredibly likely. The dream thing is you had a dream about somebody getting in a car accident, and you called your brother, and he had been to a party with somebody who got into a car accident.
Right. It was a good friend of him, and they were connected.
Yeah.
And so it was like the rules actually state that you could be in the same room or you could be a state away. And but we actually emit and project like energies, just like a radio signal. You can't see the signal, right? But they build things that can pick it up. I think that our minds and brains are capable of actually picking up as well as projecting and being able to be in sync with. Although you can't see the radio signal, how do you know it exists?
Well, because we can measure radio signals. And as soon as you demonstrate that the brain does anything like that, then you've got a scientific explanation. Then you've got a phenomena worth investigating. But that's not the case. Right. And we're so bad with probability and numbers. And I know you touched on this briefly earlier. But just as an example, I could say, okay, everybody out there, I want you all to pick a number between 1 and 100. Any number. Don't tell me what it is. And then I could say
1% that'll call in and say, "Oh my God."
Yeah, I could say, okay, you're thinking of 37. 99% of the people out there think that's the suckiest trick in the world. But somebody out there is going, "Oh my God, how do you do that?" It's selective. You're selectively addressing an issue, and I'm not trying to, belittle the experience you had. I believe you. I have no problem with it. I just don't necessarily know that leaping to the idea that there's some metaphysical, supernatural, unexplained connection is in fact the best explanation. But even if it was, we'd need evidence to support it and not just, anecdotal stuff.
Right. What do you think about Edward Casey? Are you well read on Edward Casey
the
at all?
The spirit talker guy?
Right.
I think it's hogwash,
modern,
just like
modern, quote unquote, modern prophet.
I think it's hogwash. I think in that case, it's not much different from the stuff of Nostradamus, where people are seeing what they want to see. It's really easy to kind of reinterpret prophecy after the fact. Right.
Did you know Edward Casey, without any doctorates or any degrees, he actually there's a thing that we use today, a medical procedure that we still use today, that he developed without any medical research. He actually people will come to him with an ailment, and I don't know, I guess take it for what it's worth, but if you actually read on Edward Casey and his like medical accomplishments and the foresight about what's actually in a human body without having any idea And as far
Well,
especially
just
with
because
the,
just because somebody's not formally educated doesn't mean they have no idea. That's the other thing,
yeah.
is that we
but
overemphasize.
the things that he did is just amazing.
Take a look at
Well,
all
I
the
don't
people.
want to take up too much of your time, but
Sure.
Well, but I just leave you with the thought that if you believe for certain that we are not capable of such things, then of course you'll write off everything as being just a matter
But that's
of
not
odds.
the case.
And
In the same aspect, if you believe that we truly do, then there are things that you will see like, oh yeah, well this is what I've been, because you're wanting it to happen.
I said earlier that it's theoretically possible. It just needs a mechanism to explain it. I don't happen to believe it's true, but I don't necessarily believe that it's impossible. But the reason
we're just not at the level right now to create such a
well, there's no reason to think any other levels exist. The phenomenon needs to be demonstrated.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see of any mechanism that would make something like that possible. I mean, our brains are not radios, and they cannot transmit radio waves. I mean, that's just not what they're made of.
It's an example of what you can and can't see.
Well, I know, but there are things that we can and can't do, and I can't conceive of any mechanism where I could somehow telepathically communicate with you or whatever. Now, again, if they come out with some new research in the next 5, 10, 200 years that says it actually is possible and here's a way that you can do it, wow, that's really cool
why the
and that's
FBI
neat.
pays sidekicks.
But
what's that?
I wonder why the FBI actually spends money and pays to hire like sidekicks to help them. Do you think
because they've got too much of a budget?
The thing is, no psychics ever recovered a missing child. Happens all the time. Some parent's child gets kidnapped, and psychics come in attempting to lead the police somewhere, and there's not a single example of a psychic actually finding and saving a kidnapped child. What happens is they waste police time, energy, and resources by directing the investigation in other ways. No supernatural claim, no psychic claim has ever been demonstrated under any testable conditions, and every time we try to test, they fail.
But why does our own government actually spend money in the hiring of these individuals that they believe to be specialists? I mean,
because
there must be some sort of research on a higher level.
Because some of them believe that they have special abilities. That doesn't make them right.
Right.
People can be wrong.
You would think they would have some sort of research before they go and.
They did. They spent years for researching at the Stanford Institute, and not Stanford, the real university, but the Psychic Research Center that's next to it. And what they found after spending millions and millions and millions of tax dollars is that there's no evidence that any of this occurs. Now, do they still end up putting some of them on a budget from time to time? Sure, but they also paid $30,000 for a toilet seat. Nobody said that they're right or smart. Whether or not they spend money.
They must have found something. I mean,
no. If people had psychic powers, don't you think we'd know
they can't put it in our. Well, sure, but they can't put it in the school curriculum if they did find something.
No.
People start going nuts.
We don't need to go off on any kind of conspiracy stuff. If people actually had psychic powers, we'd all know it. It'd be front page news. People would be able to demonstrate this clearly and objectively. Why don't psychics win the damn lottery? Why don't they take the $1 million challenge? Oh, we can't benefit from our abilities because it doesn't work that way. Whatever higher power is allowing me to see things won't do it if I'm doing it for my own benefit. Great. Take the challenge and give the $1 million to starving kids. Then you're not doing it for your own benefit. None of them do. None of them ever demonstrate any phenomenon, let alone pass a test of how it occurs, because they can't demonstrate that it occurs at all. Now, I don't necessarily believe that it's impossible or that it can never happen. I just think that it's, at this point, ridiculously unlikely, and certainly belief isn't justified. As soon as somebody demonstrates it, I'm right there. Hell, I'd love to be psychic, wouldn't you?
I'd take it any day.
Yeah.
But like I say, it's just no evidence for it. I don't see anything, so.
Well, guys, hey, y'all enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and thanks for taking my call.
Sure, thanks, Cody.
Thanks for calling.